Oh boy. Facebook meet Meta. Meta's your replacement. The new name reflects the company's push toward the metaverse, this new virtual reality world where users will be able to join in games and work, live with just a login and a virtual reality headset. After the new announcements, Facebook, or Meta shares, did jump up 9%. They have moderated. They're now up 3.7% at the moment. There will be a new ticker as well, MVRS. Metaverse, and will begin trading on December 1st. But the new announcements and company rebranding come in the wake of the release of disturbing in-house documents showing that Facebook refused to alter its business model, even in light of proof that the site amplifies hate speech, misinformation, and content dangerous to teens' mental health. And since the whistleblower's accusations, major other players and Facebook investor cheerleaders are now expressing disillusionment with the social network. In a Time magazine column, I mean, you look at the cover of this thing, it says delete Facebook ? October 25th, 2021, entitled Facebook Will Not Fix Itself. Early Facebook investor Roger McNamee of Silicon Valley investment giant Elevation Partners blasted Facebook, saying this, in essence. He's, okay, where is that? Do we not have that full screen there? Hold on, I got it. Let's see, these whistleblower documents are the inevitable result of a dangerous design. Further inaction by Congress will likely result in catastrophes from which we may not recover for a generation or more. The Facebook whistleblower documents, as you see, a real problem here, and certainly for at least one investor named Roger McNamee, the author of that article. We bring him in now, Roger of Elevation Partners. Okay, first I need your reaction right now of exactly what you think of the metaverse news.
So everybody should keep this firmly in mind. This was not something that they've been thinking about for a long period of time. This was something they've put together in desperation to try to divert attention from the inevitable, pushback that the whistleblower has caused by providing evidence of irresponsible management and potential felonies committed by Facebook in pursuit of profit. And they're trying to distract journalists, and they're trying to distract policymakers. The thing to keep in mind is they would also like to change the structure of Facebook to find some way to insulate Mark Zuckerberg from accountability for all the harm that's been done by the company on his watch. Now, if I were a journalist or if I were a policymaker, I would keep my eyes firmly on what the whistleblower released, because that stuff is not the whistleblower complaining about Facebook. Those are internal documents created by the best people inside Facebook, shared with all of the employees, that management disregarded consciously in pursuit of profit and disregard, if you will, for the public interest.
What we're seeing on the screen is Mark Zuckerberg with his avatar and an avatar type of fireplace that kind of looks realistic. Some of these avatars look just like basic animated characters, but you're saying that this whole thing was put together to insulate Zuckerberg from future, I would imagine, litigation. When you say catastrophe, what do you mean we're heading toward catastrophe if Facebook isn't reined in?
Well, the fundamental problem is that Facebook has undermined democracy. For a democracy to work, people have to have a shared understanding of the facts. And then they disagree about what to do about it. You have conservative points of view, you have liberal points of view, but everybody basically shares a set of facts. And then they have their own view on what to do about it. The problem is that Facebook has created a giant network with 3 billion people and a business model with two defining characteristics. It starts with having perfect information about each person. They literally have a model of each of us, and they're able to use that to both predict our behavior, and more dangerously, they use recommendation engines to manipulate our behavior. And they do this by grabbing our attention, by shoving really emotionally engaging content. So think about hate speech, disinformation, conspiracy theories. These things are all incredibly engaging. So they pump that stuff in there. And the result is that a lot of scams and crazy ideas have been thrust from the fringes of society into the mainstream. And as a consequence, half the country can't talk to the other half. We don't have any shared sense of what it means to be an American. And that's unbelievably dangerous. It's not good for anybody, not left, not right.
Okay, Roger, do you foresee that these pretty pictures and these beautiful scenes of people working out and in these metaverse areas, I mean, he even referenced Peloton, almost taking a swipe saying, now you can be in the metaverse on one of these bikes, or you can play basketball with your friends. I think we've got some video of this, not to mention actual opportunities where you can go and play chess with people who aren't even near you. I want to play that sound, and then I want to know what you think could be insidious or frightening down the road when it comes to privacy and safety regarding what he is unveiling today. Listen.
Let me put my game face on so I can beat you.
Okay. Check.
I gotta try another game face next time.
This all looks like a lot of fun. I immediately see issues. I see, and I'm just a mom, so I'm thinking pedophiles who have managed to get into chat rooms may present themselves as puppies with candy and lure children into these metaverse areas. But what do you see that's worrisome?
Yeah, so Liz, the fundamental issue here is that the notion of creating virtual reality has been a dream in Silicon Valley for probably 25 years.
Is it a bad dream?
And they've been, well, to be clear, there are ways to do it that would not be harmful.
Okay.
But Mark's vision of this is one where he controls the whole environment. And because of that, they're going to be able to intrude on many more parts of our lives, aspects of our lives that historically have been intimate. And they're going to have the ability to manipulate behavior because they can control all the menus, they can control all of the interaction, and they can insert things into the games and into the experience that drive our behavior one way or another. And so if you look at this, the issue that you raise with kids is humongous. You know, kids are not prepared emotionally to handle the kind of manipulation that you see on Instagram today, and the metaverse will be much greater. The only thing saving us today is that the technology is still very primitive, and the experience will not be anything like as good as they're trying to make you believe. It will be eventually, but it's not there yet. And thank goodness for that, because we need time. Human evolution is very slow. Computers have been moving incredibly rapidly. And the result of that is that it's possible to use computers to do things to humans that they're not aware of, that are incredibly harmful. You see these kids with eating disorders on Instagram. And you see, you know, the human trafficking on Facebook.
Well, I read the New York Times expose, which infuriated me, that everyone from Twitter to Facebook, they are not shutting down these shadowy rooms. And that only makes me wonder, what is this going to lead to? But that said, Roger, there are people who say, you bring in Washington, you bring in lawmakers, and they will basically ruin a very vibrant sector, which is Silicon Valley and technology in this country. China will take over the lead. How can you regulate them without destroying the vibrancy of technology in this country?
So, Liz, that is a great question. The key thing to understand is that engineers are at their best when they have to manage around constraints. The challenge we have today is there are no constraints. So engineers are taking the easy route, which is to do harm and essentially use the power of data to manipulate human behavior. The great thing that would happen if we could break these monopolies, and if we could create protections for privacy, and if we could have some system for ensuring that tech products are safe, because the problem today is there's no incentive out there for tech products to be safe. But if you could make them safe, if you could create privacy, if you could create competition, in fact, I think you'd see a wildly more vibrant tech market than what you see today. When they use the word innovation, that's a monopolist word, because innovations are tiny improvements in a sector that historically has produced radical things that have made our lives much better. And we're no longer in that because it's so heavily monopolized. I think it's a huge problem. I'm not worried about China at all. China has a different value system. It's authoritarian. I want to see a tech sector that has American values.
Roger McNamee of Elevation Partners, a lot on our plates to think about. Thank you very much. And Roger's got a book called Zucked, Waking Up to the Facebook Catastrophe.